Welcome to the Franchise Whispering podcast brought to you by Franchise Marketing News. Franchise Marketing News bringing, let me get that out of the way. Let me start on now. Ready. Welcome to the Franchise Marketing News, a sponsored podcast, Franchise Whispering. Today we have a special guest in person, our first in-person podcast today, Madison Gates. Madison Gates comes to us, her own consulting company, Empowered, works with one of the largest franchises in the country in the sports venue, I9 Sports, and has just a history in the franchise space and the sports space, and really wanted to kind of talk today about how the intricacies of sports and get together. But tell us a little bit how you kind of got into sports, how you got into this business.
Yeah. Thanks, Bob. Thanks so much for the introduction. So Madison Gates, yeah, I've been in franchising for over a decade now. So, and I love it. I think you're either in franchising or you're not, right? You're either brand or agency and you can go a little bit in between. But yeah, I got into franchising over a decade ago. I Driven Brands as our marketing manager at Carstar. So we had like 250 locations in the US and we grew throughout COVID, over 700 in North America. So I really started on the B2C side and building out their marketing strategy for our US locations. We did a lot of B2B back in the day in Carstar, but really had to
Sure.
lean into B2C because consumers have a choice, right? And that was back in 2017, 18, and really wanted to educate the consumers. And I think that's what marketing on the B2C side is all about. So I continued my career within Driven Brands, which was an amazing opportunity, and then moved over to Maaco, one of the largest auto body paint repair in North America. Led that as the VP of marketing. Everything from new brand creative and a new brand refresh to all of our technologies, and did a lot of technology transformation over there and like CDPs and CRM. And then, led the brand. And then from there, I moved on to work on the franchisee side, private equity backed in the Neighborly brands, which is where we had crossed paths. So Precision Garage Door and Mr. Rooter, and was there for over a year, really building out their marketing strategy to scale. And how do you build out those processes and how do you build out sustainable action to continue to grow and build? And then I started my own consulting business back in April to really lean into franchising and marketing and revenue ops, because in franchising, it's so important that marketing isn't just pushing, right? We need to work with operators and operations to make sure that they're delivering the marketing message. So started that in April, and then most recently started as the VP of marketing for I9 Sports. So that really blends my passion and my mission and really where I started and kind of who I am. So prior to franchising, went to University of Michigan and played soccer and had sport management and communication degree. So this really blends my franchise excitement and expertise and experience with the sport. So yeah.
Did you mentioned obviously playing D1 sports, which is huge. It's probably with University of Michigan, crazy. And so, but your sports management degree and
Mhm.
then getting into franchise, was that an
Yeah.
easy bridge to go about?
I mean, I think so, right? There's so many parallels to teamwork and building, and how do you really lean into the talent that you have to be successful? That's on the field and off the field in business. And prior to franchising, I worked in an agency. So I had the event planning and the sport management and communication background, but then I worked for a digital marketing agency. So I learned all the digital side back in 2010 when like Google and algorithms. And so really cut my chops there of kind of blending the in-person events with digital marketing, which is now what I do all together, right? Local marketing is extremely important in franchising, and so is having that digital footprint that is scalable and measurable.
It's funny because as you talk about your computer and then dropping into the auto side of the business,
Mhm.
that must have been a nice blend too. Sharp elbows there.
Yeah. Automotive was great. I think I just got thrown in and like you either sink or swim in that environment.
Awesome.
We were private, backed by Rourke before Driven Brands went public. And worked through that whole transition, which was super exciting. It was a great time. And then same when I moved from Carstar to Maaco, we were in a revival time right in 2020 when COVID happened. And we're like, all right, we're close to a 50-year-old brand. How are we going to continue to sustain and grow? And that was our goal. We had an amazing leadership team, really leaned into making sure the franchisees knew the direction we were going, and then also leaning into listening to the franchisees of what they're hearing, seeing, feeling on the ground. Right. So yeah, it was a great time.
Well, and especially that full funnel view you've had of it, all the tech stacks you've worked with. One of our premises at our agency is we are convinced the CEO of the future is going to come from the CMO desk instead of the CFO desk. You know, previously to 5, 10 years ago, the CFO always kind of got the CEO seat. They had the black and white numbers and those type of things. Now that, you know, marketing is a full operational mechanism, you've got to have some interesting stories about that. And what do you think about our premise now that the CMO person is closest to the consumer, closest to the data, closest to innovation?
Yeah. I mean, your CFO and CMO have to be really aligned. I think, like you said, years ago, it was CFO driven. Now it's really how do we partner together? And that's where it's been successful. I have partnership with our FP&A team, right? Like,
Mm.
how do we forecast? Here's what we're seeing on, all the metrics that we can actually track. And here's our budget. Here's how we're going to connect with the consumer. And then here's what we're going to be able to deliver from a business, right? Everything from our conversion numbers to our retention numbers. So you have to have a partnership there. And yeah, I think the CFO obviously balances all the books, and thank God, because I do have a creative mind still, but in the roles I've been in most recently in the last 5, 6 years, we are data driven, right? Like we have to look at those, but we also have to have the creative side of listening to the consumer and understanding the feelings, right? Like to run a business, you have to have it's data driven to make those, but you also have to elicit emotions from the consumer. You have to also understand the feelings that the franchisees or owner operator feeling as well. So it's a good balance. So I like it. I mean,
I think those feelings part of it, it's like the insights you deem from the data, right? You can just stare at data, everybody's got it.
yeah.
But if you're not able to glean the insights from that, that's the critical key. Tell me about, like you said, the move to your passion now, children in sports, and
Yeah,
please.
it's awesome. Oh, I actually go to like I started Empower Consulting in April. Obviously, I've been in the day to day heads down for the last 10 years in franchising, and it got exhausting. I really wanted to re evolve, I guess, myself and like what really matters to me, and empowerment is a big one. So empowered, one for Michigan. That's leaning into that. My name and like empowerment is just like so big because you have to be able to empower people, your teams on and off the field. And that's where it kind of started when I was playing soccer. The most that I felt alive and fun and able to gain confidence in who I was on the field was when I had a coach who was empowering to make mistakes and to try something new. So that's kind of where that started in like April.
Nice.
And then when I was like consulting and doing really well, and I loved it. And I'm still working with another PE backed HVAC and plumbing company, which is awesome. Like they're great. And we're going to continue to scale there. But I said, if I go back to corporate, it has to align with my mission and passion and kind of who I really a testament to who I am. And I think my drive and where I've come to is because of sport. So our mission at I9 Sports is helping all kids succeed in life through sport, right? You build the foundation, the confidence, the teamwork, the fun. We kind of lean against the NIL culture and the non-specialization and really leaning into fun, non-pressure, not as competitive, right? Because only like 15% go off to play high school and college. So why are parents all like, oh my God, my kid needs to be the best? It's like, no, what you learn is the foundation on the field with your empowering coaches and with confidence building and with teamwork. So yeah, joining I9 was like awesome. I get to really lean into the marketing aspects that I've been doing in franchising, and then really the mission of how do we connect with parents and then make sure it's a great experience for kids so that they can build that foundation to be successful in life.
Have you learned, go back a little bit. I loved what you were saying about the empower and
Hmm.
that manager, coach. Take us back to a time where somebody, back to that allowing you to test yourself, make mistakes, those
Yeah.
type of things.
Yeah, I mean, so I was a goalkeeper too, right? So like in game time, you can't make mistakes, else the ball is in the back of the net and you're the one picking it up. However, in training, right, I think, and that's where the train like a team, build like a business comes from, is like you train so hard and you practice like you want to play. And I think that's missing in some businesses of like, when things aren't, I guess, when things aren't all well oiled machine, like everything's on fire in businesses. And that's when you see scalability is difficult. So, kind of going back to training and being like, train as hard as you can so that you can play as well, during game time. So, and then, yeah, coaches were just, hey, make mistakes during training because you can't. It's actually game time. And I think in business, there's definitely times for opportunity of like bringing big ideas, but then you have to look at the business. What's going to actually scale? What's going to be profitable, right? So you can have your team members who are thinking and being thoughtful and bringing big ideas. And then as a team, what's going to actually move the business and what's leaning into our mission.
Love that. And then how do you, obviously, operations,
Mhm.
data driven, there's like a whole drive to that. And then you've got to find a way to talk to the parent about their child in the I-9 sports situation. Tell me about that kind of day, the delicacies that are
Oof.
part of it.
Yeah, let's start on the data side because I think that's really important franchising too. And what I've been seeing over the last 5, 10 years, it's like if your data and your point of sale system and your marketing and all of those are not connected, it's a not great customer experience. And that's where you lose the trust. That's where you lose retention. So the last few businesses really making sure those technologies are connected and talking to one another, right? Because I can, as a marketer, say, this is what you're going to experience. Well, then if the technologies aren't connected, saying, if they go online to register for a soccer program that isn't available, but we've marketed and said that, well, that's not a great customer experience. And then we lose them. So that's the technology side. And then I think, and then on the consumer side of how they're feeling, we market and say, helping all kids succeed in life through sport. And then if we don't have a great coach who are uplifting them and like building that confidence and, having all kids play, that's one of our main things is like every kid will play. There's no cuts. There's no, tryouts or like that. It's no pressure. But if we don't have operators and our area developers is what we call them, executing that, right, then they're not going to come back either. So we have a parent pledge also that says we're kids, not recruits, and this is fun, no yelling. We also have like coaches and officials are humans, right? Like, so just all this positivity. So we create the materials so that our operators can utilize that on the field during game days and practices. We have one game and practice a week, which makes it very convenient for everybody. So it's the education piece, really connecting with our operators to make sure they have the right staff of uplifting the kids and making sure parents are at bay.
No, that's what I was going to ask next. Is almost should be a training course for parents these days, right?
Hmm.
That's got to, how do you manage that literally from a marketing and training standpoint?
Yeah.
There's got to be patience levels you're seeking for the people that are going to be the coaches and stuff like that, because
Yeah.
everybody's child's very important to them.
Yeah.
Navigate that.
So we have a lot of partnerships. We have Coaching Her, which provides a lot of coaching materials, which is awesome. We're leaning into getting more girls involved. We have the Positive Coaching Alliance. So we have our area developers and our coaches really engaged in all those materials of just making sure that, hey, we understand how we need to communicate and work with kids but then deal with the parents. Now, on the marketing side of our strategy going into 2026, which is something that I'm so passionate about, is educating the parents on just building the foundational skills for your kids. Again, like going against specialization and burnout and the NIL culture that we're in right now. And that's a very different path. And that's the path that I took, except for I didn't get paid and didn't have NIL. That's a whole different topic. That's a whole different topic. But really educating them and eliciting this emotion that your kids just want to have fun. Like, you're the ones who are telling them to practice hard. If they're not having fun, they're not building those skills and that confidence and teamwork. Yeah. So our strategy for 2026 is really putting out material of, who we are and leaning into the positivity of mental health and movement and getting them away from screens. And, why not? Right? Like, it's the best thing for your kids to just go out and have fun.
No, and that's got to be tough to break some of them from the screens. I mean, obviously, those devices are built to be habitually used. So, no, what a great initiative for that. And then, with regards to what sport right now are you kind of seeing these consumers leaning into? What's that?
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
We are going to be leaning in, and we're going to launch a big campaign in January or February. Girls has been exploding, right? Like, we see youth sports continuing on the uptick, which is great. Like, we want more kids involved, but our volleyball and our flag for girls has been skyrocketing, which is great. And you'll see a lot of, like, NFL flag now has it. And then, so those two sports are huge for
Okay.
us. Soccer continues to grow. If you look at it from a youth sports
World Cup's
perspective,
this year.
but for us, there's so much competition in soccer. Every club is on a corner, and we look at like 3 to 14 is our bread and butter, like, of really getting them involved. So clubs are now doing the peewees and the little. So soccer is being really competitive for us, but yeah, we're leaning into volleyball and flag and girls
Football.
and yeah, t-ball and basketball. They're stable and steady and continuing to grow. I love our little T-ball, like, because they do T-ball and then, like, slow pitch and coach pitch. It's cute to get them out there.
And do you see that using a lot of visuals of that is bringing higher click-through rates or are those type of things?
Yeah. So we did a study before I joined I9 of a new brand positioning, and really it was just the brand book and the creative. So now we are reviving all of that to kind of get more in line with where everything is. So yes, definitely more creative coming out, and then building in Q1, Q2 is going to be a new brand positioning. I mean, we'll still lean into helping all kids succeed in life through sport, but how do we bring that messaging that connects more with the modern day consumer and parents? Working through all of that. Video is huge. Reels, right? Like, just showing the kids that are having fun and happy. Yes, definitely drives a lot more. We did a lot of, like, down funnel, like bottom of the funnel conversion tactics. We are working through the full funnel of adding a lot more creative and fun visuals now.
And with that, you mentioned from 3 to 14 is your width. Tell us about that journey of trying to keep the 3-year-old into the next phase and the next
Yeah.
phase, because there's like 5 child phases within that 3 to 14.
Yeah. And I'll bring this out, like, for all the businesses that we're working with in franchising. I think over the last, let's see, what year are we in? I think the last 5 years, right? When COVID, we were also driven of getting the conversion and performance channels, like your paid search and, like, driving new customer acquisition. We now need to really focus on the retention. So that's what you're asking around, like, how do we keep 3, 4, 5 in one? I mean, there's so many tactics for retention. Now, we're reviving some CRM and win-back campaigns with, new messaging. We have to have on-field retention. We have to have the customer experience of, like, making them excited. We have these sportsmanship awards every week that the kids get a medal and they get to take a picture in front of a little sign that says that, and they get to bring it home, right? So, like, garnering this experience that make them excited to come back, one, either to the same sport, or two, for us, is making sure that they're multi-sport. So coming back the next season and trying something else. But retention, not only in our business, it needs to be a focus of all businesses now because customer acquisition costs are continuing to rise. We know that digital is not slowing down. So how can you make sure that you're warming the ones that are already engaged and then bringing them back? Yeah, retention is going to be a big focus, and I think it
Huge.
should be for all businesses. Really,
No, you've got a 9 to 10 year window with them, so why not keep that high touch engagement? Now, you mentioned about the conversion driving, low funnel
Mhm.
tactics that were so important. Are you seeing any drift back to traditional media at all, or people?
I think the drift more is in local and relationships and like missing that connectivity with, especially in franchising, right? Like making sure that you are the ambassador in your community and really the one who's driving that in your local. Now, I mean, yeah, traditional would be great if you've got the budget, right? But I
Right.
think you really need to have that blend. And we talk a lot about of a balanced marketing mix of you better be doing boots on the ground, signs, flyers, the in-person events, which is so silly, but it goes back to my event days in sport management and communication, but that's what converts. It's like they see us our signs on in schools, right? They see our flyers and they're like, "Oh yeah, I want my kid to go out and run around and play." And then we have to make sure that we're online, right? Like paid search, social, ETV, we're doing all of that because if we're not, then our competitors are. So you've got to have that balance.
So when you talk about that high touch localization, any good experiences with like micro influencers in any market?
Working on that. So I've been having a lot of conversations with our franchisees, 80s, what we call them, of like our coaches have been players, and have played professionally. So I'm trying to lean into the influencer, the PR, the podcasting of like leaning into these coaches who have played at the highest level, but then are coaching at I-9 because of they want to not be part of the burnout and the non-specializations. Not yet, but it's on our docket for 2026.
Yeah, no, keep us up to date
Mhm.
how that goes. You've got such a cute little story there with
Yeah.
those type of coaches
Yeah.
and that type of thing to be able to get them access to more ears, eyes, and
Mhm.
that type of thing would be. How about how's like email and
Mhm.
SMS landing for you these days? We're seeing on the email side, it getting to in certain instances, getting it to land anymore, especially this time
Mhm.
of year, everybody's flooded. Is your
Yeah,
experience?
the last year and the way that Google and Outlook have put things into promotional boxes. And so, from a national standpoint, we really have to curate those lists and those audiences that we're trying to get to because they are landing in that. However, the SMS piece, also with like all the legal pieces, like making sure that everybody is opted into marketing, we're working through that. SMS obviously has a higher conversion and engagement rate. Right now, we've seen email definitely drop a little bit for sure. So that's why we lean into the local side of yeah.
On that. And with that, just curious, and you probably don't have the data on this, but in your business, how much of it, what's the percentage of the kid tugging on mom's shirt saying, I want to go do that? And versus mom and dad, like, holy cow, you're on the screen all day. You're going to get out
Yeah.
and go do
I
something.
think it's the parents, right? That's
It is
really who we have to connect with because ours are so young, right? Like they're not on their
right.
phones. Now at YEB, Youth Enrichment Brands is our parent company. They, skew a little older for US sports camps and our Nike sports camps. Really, we have a kids one as well. And then School of Rock is another one of our brands. So they skew a little older that they're starting to see, I think, like the ones who are in middle school and high school are on the screens. And like, if we can get them engaged and have them play either sports or play music, then that's what we're trying to look into. So, kind of going back to our anti screen thought, we are working at a new brand position too for YEB of like all of us really making sure that we can help kids succeed in life through whatever it is they're excited about outside of screens, and getting them.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that is huge these days. And have you seen, and maybe this is not in your purview, but with the number of franchises that the organization owns, has it helped, people buy multi units of different
Mhm.
franchises to kind of,
Yeah.
for lack of a better term, yeah,
100%. And now we've been around for over 20 years. I9 has, and we started as a single unit owner, right? And it's really
here in
focused,
Tampa?
yes, with zip codes. Well, now we are definitely seeing more coming who still want to be in the sports space and not necessarily investors. We're still seeing a lot of them who like, yes, I want to be in new sports, but they know that they want to scale and own. Or also, I just had a conversation with one of our is yesterday, and they're working on having multi-brands within youth enrichment, right? And
Right.
how can you continue to connect? There is such a cohesion there and cross branding opportunity that we are just tapping into, and we need to do that. So yes, and from a marketing and a franchisor perspective, we love to work with multi-store or multi-franchise operators, because then we can kind of educate them. They have their systems in place with a general manager or a site manager, whatever it may be. They have a local marketing manager. It's just great to work with them, because then we can build those foundation. They can scale better versus having 300 franchisees instead of 150 franchisees instead of like 300, which is good.
That's huge. And
Yeah.
then what is if you had to have your top three things that you try to employ to get the franchisee for, buy-in for the corporate mission, for the corporate, and this can be one, two, or three things.
Yeah.
How do that's obviously another situation. How do you do that best in your experience?
Yeah. So coming into online, right, I think the first piece was really making sure that our team is aligned with our operations coaches, right? They're the ones really engaging with the franchisees. I have to understand like who are our hot button like franchisees that I need to either connect with directly because they have, there's something, they're escalating something, or making sure that we as an operations and marketing team are all on the same page. Okay, what were our struggles last year and what are going to be our new goals for 2026? So that was the first thing, making sure ops and marketing are aligned. Then it's going to connect and build those relationships with the franchisees, and that's kind of what I just have to do and like on a one-on-one basis, just to educate and say, hey, here's my background, here's our team's background, here's what the business has done in the past. I think you definitely have to prove out success from the business. You have to prove out success from your team of what you've done, and then kind of educate them on where does marketing trends go? Why are we recommending these? Because it's not just I9 recommending it. This is where the industry and marketing has shifted and the consumer behavior has shifted over the last 5-10 years. So getting them to understand it's not just a me mission. It's not just an but really this is the consumer. We need to connect with them, because ultimately that's who's going to drive registrations, drive your sales, get more kids on the field, is really understanding that full picture. So education is huge, and we do a lot of webinars. I have a lot of conversations, and then just maybe it's the three things: balanced marketing mix, which is boots on the ground, localized, digital. You've got to have the conversion tactics, and spend, right? What does your marketing budget look like? Here's a prescriptive plan for that, and we have that. And then the third piece is making sure that you're operating and delivering the experience that we're telling the consumer about. So those are the three. Operations has to be locked and loaded. And then on the marketing side, digital and local.
Localization.
Yeah.
Okay. On the being able to get the sell through, is that connection between marketing and operations and picking up some data points and being able to speak
Yeah.
to, their individual thing a big plus also?
Critical, right? If you are not on the
Right.
same page. And I've been in businesses where it hasn't been, right? Ops just goes and has their own priorities, and it's disjointed against marketing. And then we're all disjointed of where the business is going, right? So that doesn't grow success. So when we've been really successful, and I'll go back to Maaco, we had a whole new leadership team come in 2020, and we really built that camaraderie and the teamwork. And that's what made me really fall in love with franchising, I think, and
Sure.
going back to sport is our team was so in lockstep and we always backed each other. And when we went to the franchisees and said, these are our goals, these are our strategic initiatives, we were all on the same page. And that delivers really strong, right? Like it's not just ops saying one thing, it's not just training saying, it's not just marketing, it's not just our CEO, but we're all saying the same thing and we're rowing in the same direction.
And it's black and white too. You got the data to support
Yeah.
that's awesome. Okay, we're gonna go to a lightning round here.
Okay.
Thanks. And it's all over the place. National championship men's football. Who's gonna win it?
Oh gosh. Well, not the other state over there. So I don't know. And then the Notre Dame story is a tough one. I don't know. I like Miami. I'm in Florida like most recently, so we'll see.
The latest tactic in marketing from a media channel, TikTok, Instagram, those type of things. What's your favorite? What are you leaning into in 2026?
I mean, we're pretty standard with Facebook and Instagram. That's where moms are right now, moms and dads. TikTok takes so much and it needs to be localized, and we don't want our franchisees kind of focus on that. So we're leaning into Facebook or Meta. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And TikTok attribution is a little bit, it's not quite there yet. How about a neighborhood app, Nextdoor app?
The Neighborly app?
No, the Nextdoor, it's
in the communities. We did that actually at Precision and Mr. Rooter. We were on Nextdoor and we've talked about it, but that has to be done locally too, right? We also use Nextdoor at the business that I'm consulting for in plumbing and HVAC.
Yeah, that's what
That's right.
is made.
Home services is great at that.
And then last quick question here. What do you think in 2026 is marketers' biggest challenge? You've kind of talked about retention, but take us.
Yeah, I think biggest business challenge is retention, because it's not only marketing. For marketing, it's going to be the continued increase in costs online, right? Like if you are not balancing your in-person events, your localization with that, your customer acquisition, your profitability is going to suffer. So you have to make sure that you're blending both. I think profitability is a big one too that we didn't touch on. Of what I look at is the health of a business. We can spend as much as we want in marketing, but if it's not driving the right consumer and we're losing profit, then be successful as a business. So I think that's really important, is making sure that you're looking at your customer acquisition costs and your full bottom line, not just top line.
And is profitability buoyed up for you more? Like, you've got great experience, 10 years.
Yeah.
Where did profitability show up on the menu?
Yeah.
In those years?
I would say as the last year or so at Maaco, looking at your service offerings and what promotions you're driving, right? And like, as those were those shrinking our profits if we ran a, too high of a discount for paint or too high of a discount for collision? That's really where we needed to lean into. And so now I look at, okay, well, what's that promotion driving, or what does that message, and what channel, what's our profit margin on each channel too?
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you very much for taking time in person.
Yeah.
First ever, the inaugural.
Great.
So Madison Gates, thank you so much. Thank you for listening, watching the Franchise Whispering podcast, brought to you by Franchise Marketing News, and make it a great day.
Thanks.